Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video I want to teach you about copy constructors, which is very important but very confusing topic for most beginners. So before watching this video, please make sure to watch my video about different types of constructors, where we talked about default and parameterized constructors. I will link that video in the description. And also make sure to watch my video about destructors. It will also be linked in the description and I will put it here. You need to understand those two topics before you are able to understand this video. So as I said, in this video I will teach you everything that you need to know about copy constructors, which is very confusing for beginners. From my experience, beginners don't have the problem with understanding the idea behind copy constructors, but they do have the problem to understand when copy constructors are used, all of the situations, and also different types of bugs and errors that you can get when you are using copy constructors. So all of that we are going to explain in this video step by step. So here I have the code that I have written in my previous video. So let's first explain this and then we will see how copy constructor works with this example. By the way, I am going to pin this code in a comment so that you can copy paste it and code along with me. Okay, so here I have created a class called book and it has these properties. It has title, author, and then it has a pointer called rates, and I intended for this to be dynamic array where users are going to put their ratings for this book. And then here I have rates counter, which is going to serve as the size for this dynamic array. If you're not familiar with the topic of pointers and dynamic arrays, make sure to watch this video. It will be also in the description. So these are the properties. And then here I have created parameterized constructor for my book. It receives two parameters. It receives title and author. And here I create that book based on these two parameters. So I assign title and author. And here I just hard coded two rates for my book, just so that we have some data to work with. Okay. And then here we have a destructor. It is very important to create custom destructor whenever you are working with pointers, and whenever you allocate new memory in your constructor, then you should have a destructor where you are going to deallocate or release that memory so that other applications can reuse it. Most beginners don't understand this, and because of it, they get different memory leaks and errors in their code. And because of that, it is very important to use a good code analyzer that is going to analyze your code and tell you if you have any hidden errors or weaknesses in your code. I personally like to use PBS Studio because it is very smart to find errors in the code, and it also suggests ways on how you can fix those errors. As a student, you can get it for free, and I am going to leave a link in the description that you can use to download it. It is very easy to integrate with Visual Studio. You just go to their page and you download it. You can use it for C++, C#, C, and Java programming language. So after you download and install it, then you will come to your Visual Studio and click on Extensions, PBS Studio, and here you would click on Options, Registration, and you would put in license key that you received in your email, and you are done with integration. And now you can analyze your code. For example, let's comment this code in the destructor and let's run a check for this current file to see if we have any errors or weaknesses. So here you have this PBS Studio window, and as you can see, it says the rates pointer was not released in the destructor. A memory leak is possible. So just by running a simple analysis, you can find errors in your code before you spend hours on actually debugging your code and finding them. And especially it's important to catch those errors before they go into production and lose money for you or your company. So let's minimize this, and now I'm going to uncomment this code that PBS Studio suggested, and let's see what else we have in this application. So here I have created two books. Millionaire Fastlane, which is a great book for anyone who wants to start their own business. I definitely recommend you to read this one. And then C++ Lambda Story, which is a great book for people who want to learn C++. You can find this book on Amazon for $10 to $15, but I have a link in the description that you can use to download it for free and learn C++ for free. So this is what we have done so far. We have used this parameterized constructor, we have passed title and author in order to create these two books. Now, what I would like to be able to do is something like this. I would like to be able to say book and then book 3. And here, instead of passing title and author, I would like to be able to pass one of these two previously created books like this, so that now I can create book 3 based on this book 1. So I simply want to copy anything that is inside this book 1, and based on that, I want to create a book 3. And this is the exact purpose of copy constructor. You use copy constructor anytime that you want to create a new object based on an already existing object. So basically, you want to copy that object. One very important thing to keep in mind is that the same way that we have default constructor and default destructor that we get from our C++ compiler, we also have default copy constructor. But as soon as you start working with pointers, you need to provide your own custom copy constructor, or else you are going to have an error. So in this situation, we are working with pointers. So if I run this program and we don't have a copy constructor, let's see what's going to happen. So here my program started, and if I press enter, as you can see, we get an exception. We get an error here. And the reason for that is, as I said, we are working with pointers and we don't have custom copy constructor. So in order to prove that, let's comment all of the code that is working with pointers. So I'll comment this and also destructor. And if I run my program again, let's see what's going to happen. Okay, the program has started. I press enter and enter once more to close it, and nothing happened. There is no error in our code. So this is one way to fix the problem that you have, but as you already know, deleting the code is not the fix for the error. So what we should do instead is we should create custom copy constructor for our application. So let's return this part that we commented and this here as well. And now we are going to create a copy constructor. Now, there are a couple of rules when creating copy constructors. First of all, a copy constructor needs to be in the public area of your class. So it needs to be here. Second thing is that it doesn't have any return type, not even void. Third thing is that it will have the same name as the class that it belongs to. So it will be called book. Okay. Also, as a parameter, this copy constructor will receive an object of type book, and that is going to be original. Okay, so copy constructor receives one parameter, and that parameter has the same type as the class that it belongs to. So now we will use this original that was passed into our copy constructor in order to create or to construct a new object. So let's create this constructor the way that most beginners would probably do. So inside it, I will say that title is equal to original.title, and then author is equal to original.author, and then rates is original rates, and rates counter is equal to original.rates counter, like this. So this is the way that most beginners would create a copy constructor. And if you don't understand this in depth, then this code could look logical to you, because what we are doing here is we are receiving an object of type book. It is our original object, and based on that object, we are simply copying all of its properties in order to construct a new object. But, there are two very sneaky errors in this code here, especially for beginners. So if I try to run this application, we will immediately get an error. So let's see, what does our compiler say? It says copy constructor for class book may not have a parameter of type book, blah, blah, blah. Nothing really helpful, especially for beginners who have never seen this error before and who have never faced this issue. So let's close this and let's explain what is actually going on here. I want to focus on this part here, book original. For those of you who have watched my videos before and who have watched the video where I talked about different ways to pass an object to a function, you remember that I said that there are two ways. You can pass an object by a reference and you can pass it by a value. If you're not familiar with this, please make sure to watch this video. It will also be linked in the description. So, as I said, you can pass an object by a reference and you can pass it by value. If you are passing an object by a reference, you have this little ampersand symbol, and symbol, and it means that you are passing the original. So basically, your compiler is going to take the original object and pass it to another function. But if you are passing an object by a value, then you don't have that ampersand symbol. And what your compiler does is that it makes a copy of that object and then it passes that copy to your function. So what are we doing here? Are we passing by value or by reference? Here we are passing by value, which means that your compiler is going to take this book here, it is going to copy it and it will pass it into this copy constructor. But one very important thing to keep in mind is that in order to copy the book, your compiler needs to have copy constructor because that is what is used in order to copy objects. But here we are creating the copy constructor itself, which creates a logical error, which means that in order to pass this book to our copy constructor, we need to have copy constructor. But in order to create a copy constructor, we need to pass this book as a parameter. And that is going to create a logical error where you cannot create a copy constructor before you can copy this object, but you can also not copy the object before you have a copy constructor. So in order to fix this problem, what we need to do is we need to simply pass this by reference. And as you can see, immediately our error disappears. Now, one thing that we have potentially done by doing this is we have created a possibility for someone inside this function to change our original. So some other developer tomorrow can come and change the values of the original object, which should not be done in copy constructor because its purpose is just to copy that object. So in order to prevent that error, what I will do here is I will say const. So by doing this, we have said that inside this function here, inside this copy constructor, our original object is a constant, which means that this function here cannot change it. It cannot change any of the properties that it has. So let's start our application again, and I will press enter, and as you can see, we still have the error that we previously had. So let's see what else is going on in this code here. And the best way to understand it is to literally draw it. So now I am going to do that and I will be back. So here is the visual representation of our code. Here we have the original object. It has title, author, and then it has the address of dynamic array where we keep our rates. It is this array here. We have two rates and it also has rates counter. So now if I use this logic of our copy constructor in order to create a copy of this original, what it will do is the following. It will simply assign these values of the original to our copy, and it will do that like this. So title is going to be this, and then author will be this, and then rates will be the address of this array that keeps our rates, and then rates counter will be this. So where is the problem? The problem comes when destructor is invoked. So at the end of the scope of each object, you invoke destructor in order to release all of the memory that it was using so that other applications can reuse that memory. So when the destructor is invoked for the original, what is going to happen is it will delete this and then this and this. We don't need destructor for this part because it has nothing to do with pointers. But we do need destructor when it comes to pointers. And let's see what our destructor says. It says delete the array of rates, which means delete this. And then it says please make our rates point to null PTR. So it basically does, this. Now a time comes to destroy this object, so to destroy the copy. So what is going to happen here is it will delete this and this and this. This is not in dynamic memory, so it knows how to do that. But then it will invoke this destructor in order to deallocate all of the memory that was dynamically allocated. So here it says again, delete the array of rates. It says, where is my array of rates? It's on this address here. So it goes here and it tries to delete this, but that is the problem, because this memory was previously released and it does not belong to our application anymore. As I said, the main purpose of releasing that memory is so that other applications can reuse it. So at this point, this memory does not belong to our application anymore, and we are trying to access someone else's memory. And at that point, our operating system says, please stop. This is an error, you cannot do that. And that is when we get the error that you could previously see in our application. So let's return this code to what we already had, and then I'm going to show you the correct way to create a copy constructor. So let's start again, but this time let's see how we can create a copy constructor in a proper way. So here I am going to copy the title as we already did. I'm going to copy author as well, and I will copy rates counter because those things do not work with pointers and we will not have a problem if we do it like this. But when it comes the time to copy rates array, instead of simply copying it like this, what we should do is the following. We should go to dynamic memory again, and we will create a new array that has 2 spaces because we have 2 rates, okay? And this new array will have another address because it's completely new memory, like this. So inside this new array, I am going to copy the first element and the second element, like this, and my rates will hold the address of this new array. So in the future, when the time comes to destroy the original, what will happen is this. And then when the time comes to destroy the copy, we will not have the error because the copy has all of its own elements and we can simply do this without having any problems. So now let's see how we can replicate this logic in our code. So let's maximize this. And here I will keep this part and this part. I will remove this part because that's the problematic part because it works with pointers, and this part as well is okay. So now I will copy rates. So the way that we did it is we said rates is equal to new float array that has this many elements, okay? And then what we need to do is we need to use for loop. So int I is equal to 0, I is less than rates counter, I plus plus, and inside this for loop, we are going to copy all of the elements from this original rates into our rates of the copied object. So here I will say rates of I is equal original rates of I. Like this. And this is the proper way to copy all of the elements of the array. So you should not hard code it to 2 elements that we have here because your array potentially can have a lot more elements than that. So this here is the proper way to create a copy constructor. So now if I run my program, let's see what is going to happen. Okay, and then I press enter and close my program, and we don't have that error anymore. So now that we have understood how to create a copy constructor, let's see when a copy constructor is invoked. There are 3 potential situations when a copy constructor is invoked. The first one is whenever you are creating a new object based on an already existing object, like we are doing here. So we are creating book 3, which is a new object, and for that we are using book 1. So we are creating a copy of book 1 and we are calling it book 3. Okay, now one very, very important thing to keep in mind that confuses many beginners is that there is no difference between this line here that I will comment and this line here. Now, many beginners will be confused by this because this here looks like assignment operator, and many beginners think that this line here is using assignment operator, but it is not. This here is still using a copy constructor, even though you have this assignment sign here. And if you want to learn more about assignment operators and the difference between assignment operators and copy constructors, let me know in the comments. And if you want, if I make that video, I will definitely link it in the description. So again, one very important thing to keep in mind is that this line here is invoking copy constructor and this line here as well is invoking copy constructor. And the way that you will know when a copy constructor is invoked is whenever a new object is created based on an existing object, you are invoking copy constructor. It doesn't matter if it looks like this or like this. And in this situation, we are clearly creating a new object based on an already existing object. On the other hand, the assignment operator will be invoked when you are trying to reassign new values to an already existing object. For example, if I now did this, if I said book 3 is now equal to book 2, in this line here, we are invoking assignment operator. But here, when we are first creating the book and assigning it its first value, then we are invoking copy constructor. So that is an important difference. So let's delete this part. And again, let me know if you want to learn more about assignment operators. So that is the first use of copy constructors. Whenever you are creating a new object based on an already existing object. The second use of a copy constructor is when your compiler is creating a temporary object. So what does that mean? For example, when you are passing an object as a parameter to a function, but you're passing it by value, not by reference. In that case, your compiler is going to make copy of that object, and for that it will invoke copy constructor. So let's demonstrate how this works on an example. Let's create a function here. Let's say void print book, and here I will pass a parameter to my function and it will be of type book and I will call it book. So here I will say cout title and let's say book.title and let's add end line. Let's do the same for author. Okay, copy it, paste it here. And let's also print the average rate. I will create float variable, call it sum, and I will assign it the value of 0. And then I will use for loop in order to iterate through all of the rates of this book, like this. And here, what I will do is I will say sum plus equals to book.rates of I, like this. So here I will have the sum of all of the rates. And now in order to get the average rate, I will divide the sum by book.rates counter, like this. And let's call it average rate. Okay, so now what I can do is I can simply say print book and I can pass it book 1 like this. So now if you try to run your program, copy constructor will be invoked on this line here. So let's put a breakpoint to demonstrate that and run our program. So the execution of our code was paused here, and if I press F11, as you can see, it is going to our copy constructor before invoking this print book function. Okay, so let's stop the program. And one more thing that I want to do here, let's remove this. Here I want to print details about all of these 3 books. So book 1 and then book 2 and book 3. Just to demonstrate that our copy constructor works as it should. In this case, book 1 should be the same as book 3 because that is how we created book 3. We literally copied book 1. So let's run the program. And as you can see, first book is Millionaire Fastlane, second book is C++ Lambda Story, and then third book is Millionaire Fastlane again. Okay. So that is the second use of a copy constructor. So when you are passing an object to a function by value. And then the third use is when you are returning an object from a function, but only if you're returning that object by value as well. So if you're returning it by a reference, which means if you're returning the address, in that case, copy constructor will not be invoked. But if you are returning it by value, your compiler, again, is going to create a temporary object, which means that it will copy your object and it will invoke copy constructor. So those are all of the uses of copy constructors, and all of those places are places where you can get potential errors if you don't implement copy constructor properly like we did here. So thank you very much for watching, and for those of you who watch my videos until the end, I have a special bonus. If you enjoy my teaching style, you will be delighted to know that my practical programming course will soon be out. I will share my decade-long experience and help you secure a job as a software developer. There will be a link down below where you can leave me your email, and I will send you a special discount once the course launches, but make sure to sign up now because the number of places is limited. So thank you again for watching. Leave all the questions that you have in the comment section, and I will see you in some other video. Bye!